Hello, swivelheads. This whole war between India and Pakistan is heating up. It's escalating on both sides, and there may be a lot more at stake here than you realize. This war could expand a lot. This could actually be the real opening of WW3. If the situation between Russia and Ukraine is not part of that, or maybe it is, but this war has got huge potential to go bad in so many ways, so many ways. Not only could it go nuclear between India and Pakistan, but it could involve another nuclear nation being China. Now, why is that? I'm going to get all into that. But first, just get a little background. As you know, this all started on the 22nd of April when a terrorist attack took place in Kashmir that off 24 Hindu individuals and one person from Nepal. Well, it just so happens the terrorists that went in did this very much like the October 7th attack in Israel, where they were specifically asking people of their religious affiliation. If they could cite a verse from the Quran, they were given a pass. If they didn't, they were told to pull down their pants and they were checked for circumcisions. They were going after the men. And if they were not circumcised, then they weren't Islamic, and they were basically ended right in front of all their families and friends and everybody. It was just, intended to terrorize. Now, why would such an attack occur to intend to terrorize? Was somebody trying to provoke a war between India and Pakistan? I mean, this was so heinous that this is why India has responded to this in the first place, why they went in. Now, there are those, there's one in particular, an ex-CIA analyst, I believe his name's Larry Johnson, I think, who appeared on Redacted. And he was basically certain that this was a CIA MI6 operation. Hmm. I don't say that's the case, but I don't discount it. But he thought it was all designed to bring down India. I don't think so, because there's a bigger target and a bigger piece in play here that may fit 5D chess. Maybe even Trump is has got a hand in this. Although JD Vance says, "Hey, we're out of this. This is not, of our interest what happens between Pakistan and India." You got to realize the United States is funded and somewhat an ally to both nations has been for some time. But there may be bigger things at stake here, and particularly the Chinese Pakistani economic corridor, the crown jewel of China's Belt and Roads Initiative, their strategic bypass to the Malacca Strait, through which 80% of their oil and much of their trade presently passes through a very tiny chokehold in Indonesia, which China wants to get around because either the United States or India, either one, could go in there and essentially shut that down. Either one. They could absolutely shut down and choke China off right there. And China knows it. So China is trying to build a strategic bypass to that. But this is already blowing up on China, already blowing up on China. And China is heavily invested in it to the tune of $62 billion directly. And Pakistan also has got $30 billion in loans from China. And part of the problem with Pakistan, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a little bit, is that they can't even repay that. The interest on that is so high and it's choking the Pakistani economy. And Pakistan is suffering greatly. But suffering worse than the rest of Pakistan is a huge region, 40% of Pakistan called Balochistan. And Balochistan never really wanted to be part of Pakistan in the first place. We're going to talk a bit more about that in a little bit. But basically, they declared independence from Pakistan, and they are not happy there with the Chinese CPAC, the Chinese Pakistan Economic Corridor, or the Belt and Roads Initiative, or the Chinese people that are in their district. So we're going to get a little bit more into this. So first, we'll back up and talk about the war itself. This war is very heinous in that we've got, for the first time ever in the history of the nuclear age, we have two nuclear powers going at each other. I mean, not proxy like Russia, the Soviet Union days and the United States. fighting all these proxy wars. They're going at it, and it's escalating. It started with those so-called terrorist centers in Pakistan, the 9 that were hit by India, and of course, India said their response was measured and non-escalatory. And I did mention in my last video on this, I said, yeah, but the Pakistani people have a machismo culture. There's no way, and the Indians really knew this. There's no way you're going to hit them under any circumstance that they're not going to have to respond just to keep up their own front with their own people. The government that failed to do that will collapse amongst its own support. So this is a dire situation, and it's not abating in any fashion, because Pakistan immediately said, hey, there are no terrorist centers here. These were civilian, blah, 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 blah. And, and so they countered it, and they struck India. India struck back. Pakistan struck back. India struck back. There's heavy fire along the border between India and Pakistan. It started with small arms fire and went to artillery, heavy artillery. A lot of lives have been lost already on both sides, and it just keeps going up. And it's daytime over there now, and the news there in the area is projecting it's going to escalate even more, and they're night. It's nighttime here. Where I'm at, we're basically in Arizona Mountain Time, but we're still in Standard Time, so I'm on the same time zone as Los Angeles right now. So, so it's just a little after midnight here. But over there, it's daytime, and what they're expecting is when night falls, it's going to get worse. So now here's just on that conflict alone, it could go nuclear because, for one, the capital of Pakistan has been hit. Islamabad has been directly hit by these strikes, and in fact, the strikes are occurred, occurred right next to the prime minister's home. So this could be seen by the Pakistanis as an existential threat. When the nuclear weapons come into play, when there's an existential threat to the powers that be, that they could lose their power. Typically, it has very little to do with the interest of the people in any given nation. It's really whoever is in power. I warn you guys about that all the time. Same thing with Russia. It's not anything to do with the people of Russia. It's it's Putin's power base, basically, and his oligarchy. Same deal. When they feel their existential power is at risk, is when they would use nuclear weapons. That's just the bottom line. They may say it in many different ways, but that's all smoke and, smoke screen. So just keep these things in mind. If India invaded Pakistan, that would also be considered a threat. Now, see, India has claimed that, it's easy for them to say, oh, we'll have no first use of nuclear weapons. That's easier for them to say that simply because they're the bigger nation. They got bigger military, bigger people, more resources. Pakistan invading India just not going to go very far anyway. You slice and dice it. Although apparently there was an attempted invasion by some of the Pakistani forces into India, at least according to Indian sources, which Indian sources claimed they stopped. Now, I'm not trying to take sides in this. I'll talk with you guys in the chat a little bit. I see we only got 40 in the room. We got a lot of our regulars in here. Good to see y'all. I'll chat with y'all at the end of what I'm saying here. But I got to get this out. This is important to understand how this could escalate so bad. So there is a potential, like I said, it could go nuclear just between India and Pakistan. That potential exists as this war escalates, and it is escalating and escalating fast. So these are things to bear in mind. Anyway, but things aren't going well for Pakistan on another front. Like I said, Baloistan, which is the southwest corner of Pakistan, 40% of the land area has basically declared independence and tore down the Pakistani flag. Now, you may recall, I think I reported on this back maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. Time is kind of, I'm losing track of time with all my moving I've been doing. But actually, Iranian forces struck some of the attack and launched missiles into Balochistan, and Pakistan didn't say a word about it. And some people say, well, why would Iran attack Pakistan and Pakistan was okay with it? Well, it's because they hit some of the Balochistan forces. because apparently the Balochistanis aren't really popular with the Iranians either. And this could all figure in some serious, not 4D, we're talking 5D chess. And the bigger picture with what's happening with China. And it may also play into the timing of the tariffs, this potential upcoming conflict with Iran. All this could be interwoven. Even Trump's impending trip to the Mideast, where he's going to supposedly make peace, maybe to keep the Mideastern countries from jumping in on the side of Pakistan. Already, Turkey has sent a shipment of supplies to Pakistan. So here's what you got to know. The Indians claim all of the Kashmir region. The Pakistanis reclaim all of the Kashmir region, and Pakistan actually gave a slice of it to China when China and Pakistan made some alliances back decades ago. That slice they gave to China actually has that route what 213 I think is the highway. If I'm wrong, pardon me. I'm running all this off cuff, guys. So that highway is what connects Xinjiang, the oppressed province, the home of the Uyghurs, which China dominates, with another region China dominates, oppressed region known as Tibet, both of which should probably be independent nations in of their own right. So this is an important strategic highway to the Chinese. But it all falls actually within region that India says is their own. And in fact, this entire Chinese Pakistani economic corridor putting a highway through Kashmir, China claims is a direct assault and insult to their sovereignty, since Pakistan, this part of what's currently known as Pakistan, is claimed by India also. So this gets real complex. This gets really, really complex. But the Indian generals are assuring the world that they can fight a war on two fronts, with China and with Pakistan. Now, you may remember years ago, I reported on the conflicts between the Chinese and the Indians in the Ladakh region. They had a couple of dust-ups there. You may recall that I've reported on the tensions between India and Pakistan. And I even said that India and Pakistan, but that particular hot zone, had the potential to be the world's first nuclear war because of the tensions between the two, and because there's no time to affect. There's no time. If one suspects the other is launching nukes, they don't have time to second guess it. We've had several false alarms between the United States and the Soviet Union, and even Russia after the Soviet Union fell apart in one case where they thought we were attacking them, and it wasn't the case. Black Brant missile fired from Norwegian test center. They almost mistook for a ICBM launch from a submarine, a Trident missile, basically, a U.S. submarine, because they thought, this is how we would EMP them when we was going to attack them. But that's a whole nother story. But the thing is, if we were to attack Russia was to attack us with ballistic missiles, the old-fashioned way, before we had all these hypersonics that are mounted on ships that can go offshore. You had like 30 minutes to verify as these things come over the pole if it was real or not. About 30 minutes. Between Pakistan and India are right against each other. Missile flights of any kind of missile is going to happen in minutes. There is no time to second guess. And Pakistan does not have a no first use policy. And we don't know the status of India's no first use policy. And they claim they got one. They're probably going to be true to it because they got the luxury of not having to use one unless they get in a war with China. That may change things. But Pakistan just doesn't have the wherewithal, as I said, to really threaten the existence of India unless they actually use nukes. So in terms of existential threats, that's important to bear in mind. So this could happen. We could have a nuke war break out between these two nuclear powers at war. Now, if that don't occur, there is the potential for China to be dragged into this. Why? Because this is more than just China's strategic attempt to get around the Strait of Malacca. China has, like I said, a huge investment in the area, but China also has, I mean, a huge investment. This is the linchpin of the entire Belt and Roads Initiative. They have thousands of engineers, technicians, construction people, and thousands of members of the Chinese military are presently in Pakistan. And if China actually makes a move to and claims they're going to try to protect the resources there and in some material way assist Pakistan in that war, that means the entire belt of resources that China has built inside of Pakistan down through Balochistan becomes targets to India. And we're not talking about theoretical, we're talking about targets that India could hit with precision in a matter of minutes and obliterate within minutes, bringing the entire CPAC infrastructure up in smoke. Now, maybe this is part of the five-dimension chess. Maybe this is something that the American administration would like to see simply because it may fit within the timing. I mean, it looks like China is just ready to pounce on the Philippines, ready to pounce on Japan, ready to pounce on Taiwan. But son, if they get all wrapped up here while their economy's in such bad state, I mean, Chinese economy is already heading for ruin, to be honest, just uh, through their real estate fiasco they're having over there. It's horrendous. Their local governments are deep in debt. China is struggling even without this trade embargo. Now we're supposedly going to be the good guy. We're going to go negotiate with the Chinese and bring the tariffs from 145% back down to 54%. And I do think, I'm kind of aligned with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, who Mr. Wonderful, I believe is his nickname. He says, well, heck, our tariffs on China ought to be 400%. And he's basing that on just all the intellectual property that China has stolen. I mean, how many ventures has Kevin O'Leary backed? Only to see all these different little companies and ventures he backed that would get started in China would roll out whatever product these guys are doing, like within weeks later, and the company would die. I mean, and that's just a few of the examples. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs and small businesses in the United States that have tried to launch a business, a product, only to be destroyed after investing hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money in developing this product by China. You don't get this in the news. The news don't tell you this. And also, I'm putting my channel at risk by covering this. So please check your subscription. Make sure you subscribe, bang the bell, give me a thumbs up. Talk about this after, in the chat session after I post a video, and share my video because this platform does not like talk of WAR, and it doesn't like any talk that's against the CCP. For some strange reason, that's been the case for a long time. So help me out with this, guys. Uh, anyway, so let's get back to it. The situation at hand is that indeed, China can't afford to lose Pakistan. They cannot afford it. They can't afford to lose the crown jewel in their Belt and Roads Initiative. And it's not just what's happened in the Kashmir area. You got to go back down to Balochistan. So we're going to return to that now. Balochistan had what was it? The Khan of what they called it? It was originally like an independent area. And Karat, I believe, or something like that was the name of it. Like I said, guys, bear with me. I'm pulling this out of memory. He did not want to go along with joining into Pakistan, but Islamabad put a lot of pressure on him, a lot of pressure, and he caved in. But his brother didn't agree with this. His brother did not go along with that and formed rebel forces and has been fighting Pakistan ever since, mostly hiding out in Afghanistan. So, and there's another little odd thing is Afghanistan. See, when the Taliban came back into power, the Pakistanis, because they had given them so much force in the past, thought that Afghanistan would be an ally to them. But it turns out they're fighting each other on the border. The Pakistanis are not happy with the Afghan Taliban is not happy with Pakistan. There's various reasons for that, but it was rumored that just a few weeks ago, the U.S. actually sent a C-17 military cargo plane into the Bagram airfield, the one that was abandoned under Biden, where we left all the arms there. Now, both Afghanistan, the Taliban, and the U.S. deny this, although it was rumored that it had none other than Mike Ellis, the deputy director of the CIA, on board. Now, why would they do this? Well, for one, Taliban is not happy with China, even though they're making some deals with China. They're doing so kind of reluctantly because they're seeing how China's taking advantage of all the other countries they put the Belt and Roads into. China is being so. Afghanistan is also not happy with the way the Uyghurs are treated in Xinjiang because the Uyghur population there is basically under a Holocaust. I mean, it's awful what's happening to them. And because they're right adjacent to that, they got basically family on both sides. And so the Taliban is unhappy with that. As you might imagine, a lot of other Islamic countries has kind of ignored it because they've been trying to cut deals with they looked at all the trinkets that China dangled in front of them and offers for money and blah 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 blah, and they were hypnotized by their own greed, and they ignored in one rare case people of their own faith, which goes kind of counter to what they normally do. But Afghanistan is having a harder time swallowing that pill. So this is most interesting. And the thought is that I think Trump made an allusion to this, that from the Bagram airfield, the United States has a backdoor way into, basically bringing China to heel if there's a war with Taiwan or the Philippines or Japan or however, China's basically picks on all their neighbors. So, like they took a big part of Bhutan because Bhutan just didn't have the wherewithal to resist it, just like they took Pakistan, Xinjiang. So this is what you got to watch out for. The Chinese can't afford to lose uh, Pakistan because China has invested over $1 trillion in the entirety of their Belts and Roads Initiative. And it's put most of the nations are in extreme debt. They're struggling to pay it back. We might remember in Ceylon what happened. Ceylon couldn't do it. Ceylon just couldn't do it. So China went in and seized the port that they were built under a so-called 99-year lease. Well, apparently China was hoping to do the same thing with CPAC. They knew that Pakistan's economy was too weak and the terms of the loan would destroy the Pakistani economy. And so they assumed they would just be able to take it all probably and use this as their belt line to trade with the West or the Mid East, whoever, Iran, whoever they wanted to trade with, and to be able to avoid the Strait of Malacca. But such seems to be falling apart. Now back to Balochistan. Balochistan, the people there are basically oppressed. The area is rich in natural resources and minerals, but all that wealth from there has been going mainly to Islamabad and somewhat to the Punjab region of Pakistan. And so the people from Balochistan have been suffering. They're as bad poor as the Pakistanis are right now, the people of Balochistan are far poorer. I mean, a lot of them can't even get clean drinking water. They can't, even though they're the source of gas, they can't get gas. Minerals at all is being taken from them, and they're greatly resentful of that. And then suddenly, when China came in with the CPAC, the Chinese Pakistani Economic Corridor, for those just joining, the situation is that they at first were promised jobs and improvement of their lifestyle, but none of that happened. As you know, whenever China goes in with belts and roads, they insist that all the contractors and construction people are Chinese. You pay for it, they get to work and get to profit, and then you got to pay back loans at a high interest rate, which you can't support. Well, in Balochistan, suddenly they found roads being built through their territory, their tribal lands, their sacred areas, big roads, Chinese roads have been put in for this corridor. They were not happy with that. They were not happy that suddenly foreign flags were all over their territory, Chinese flags. They were not happy with, of course, that port on the southern end, the Guandar port is, that's the southern terminus of this economic corridor. And that's what a big area for trade. Just look it up on Wikipedia. That's the southern terminus, and it's a big way for China to export their goods and import their oil, whatever they need. Like I said, bypassing the Strait of Malacca. But the people there aren't happy. In fact, they're so unhappy that the Balochistanis have been attacking Chinese. They have been attacking them. And at least 3 instances made international news through the bigger ones, but there's been dozens of these attacks, so much so that China has tried to get Pakistan to control the situation, and they brought in their own military. That's why there's so much Chinese military who are now at risk in this war. Now, at the minimum side, China, suddenly might have to withdraw a lot of these people and lose part of their infrastructure, especially in Balochistan, because the people in Balochistan, they see this as their opportunity to get out, and they're moving on it. So, and they may succeed in seceding. They may succeed to secede. So, I always believe that people should have a right to self-determination. But I also think that goes to Kashmir. I don't think the Indian portion of Kashmir really wants to be part of India. They're basically Muslim. So maybe, this whole war wouldn't have taken place if India wasn't trying to claim Kashmir. And, a lot of that lies in, a lot of the trouble here lies in how the British partitioned the area when they pulled out. Just like so many other areas that the British partitioned, like Iraq. You had Kurdistan, you had the Sunni portion in the middle and the Shia portion in the south. It really should have been part of 3 different countries, but they made it one country, which was not at peace with itself. And they've done this all over the world in places where they had former colonies. They set them up to fail, basically. So, and today we've got a lot of internal strife in these areas, and sometimes it boils over into international conflict. And that's what we're seeing potentially here. So what could happen is that, we got Sweden in the house. Very good. Good to see somebody from a fellow Nordic land there. So, guys, so we got 2 nuclear powers in a hot war. Never happened in history. The whole thing with nukes is, what I remember growing up was, we had a world war every 20 years, but because we're nuclear, at least we've not had, a war because of the fear of directly taking on a nuclear power. Well, somehow in the last few years, we've gone insane as a species, I believe. We've lost our ever-loving minds, and suddenly everybody wants to poke the bear and everybody wants to fight nuclear nations. Oh, my Lord, guys, this is not a pretty scenario. There's nothing pretty about this. Nothing, not a thing. So this is why you need to be prepping. You need to be prepping seriously. Now, if it don't go nuclear, this could be the undoing of China. This could be the linchpin that could cause their country to implode and them to lose territories. And if all these, so here's the other thing. China's invested $1 trillion in the Belt and Roads Initiative. That's a lot of money, especially for China. These other countries are having a hard time paying it back. If they see that China can't defend their key linchpin of the Belt and Road Initiative at their own back door, they're going to ask, well, gee, why should we lose our entire economy, our autonomy, and our territory to China when they can't even defend what's in their back door? They may just default on this stuff. They may say, China, no, you can't come and claim it. We'll nationalize it. That's maybe what happens. So China's got a lot at stake here, a lot at stake. Their alliance with Pakistan, their CPAC, the crown jewel, their Belt and Roads Initiative. Hey, Rodney, and their entire Belt and Roads Initiative is at stake. Huge investment. And it's also the face of Xi Jinping, the chairman of the CCP. I'm going to quit referring to him as president of China. He wasn't elected by the people. He's chairman of the party. That's what he really is. So, guys, when you look at this, what this means is that, he survives the top by complete authoritarian control. If he's now seen weak, that his key star in his crown has suddenly shattered, it's not going to go well for him. I mean, this is how he started out. This was his baby. He came up with this and he promoted this, and this was, his crown and jewel. If this shatters, his whole reputation goes poof. And it ain't going to go well for him within his own party. And his party isn't going to be, it's already not really popular among the Chinese people. Chinese people don't want to be controlled like that. So there's an opportunity that maybe China will change governments, change horses. Maybe they'll have something more akin to what's in Taiwan. China would be a beautiful country if it were truly a free economy. It could accomplish great things and be something the whole world would be happy to see, I think. It would be an amazing accomplishment if China went the current CCP governance of China, let's put it that way, went the way of the Soviet Union. Which is exactly what they don't want to see happen in the CCP, but it'd be the best thing for the people of China and all the other provinces like Tibet and Xinjiang that they have greatly oppressed. So, all right, guys. That said, you can see why China might get involved. Now, if you look at this from a biblical standpoint, in the Bible, there's talks of a war that wipes out a quarter of the population of the world. Well, you got most of the population of the world right there in a circle between India and China. If you can draw a little circle there, like 1,000 miles, and you got most of the world's population right there. If India and China get into a war, that could easily happen. But you've also got the 200 million troop, which was referred to in the book of Revelations as demons crossing the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And according to the biblical story, like there's this demon and he opens his mouth and four frogs come out, and that's supposed to be four nations. And one of them would have to be China. Probably one would be Pakistan, maybe. Who's the other two? Would it be? I don't think it'd be Afghanistan. I used to think it would be maybe North Korea, but maybe North Korea is too embroiled with South Korea and Russia. I'm not sure they would get into who's the other two frogs in this scenario. Would Iran and maybe even Iraq be the other two frogs? I don't know how that would count out. But supposedly they're going after Israel. Why would they go after Israel? Maybe because Israel attacks a key ally of China in Iran. Maybe it's a deal they crack with the Mideast to try to shore up their own power and rebuild their Belt and Roads Initiative. I don't know, guys. But this is China can only stage such a war for a few more years because our economy is imploding. So we might be at this biblical point in time. Maybe. I don't know. Am I interpreting this correct? I don't know. This is conjecture, pure conjecture, but it's an interesting thing to ponder. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's an interesting thing to ponder that this could be the biblical, two biblical events, that war that wipes out a quarter of the world's population, and also the source for the 200 million demons or whatever it is that, that's coming across the Tigris and Euphrates River, supposedly aimed toward Israel, which apparently they don't make it. I don't know. This could be all leading to the Battle of Armageddon, but that's supposed to take place before the Battle of Armageddon, if I interpret it correctly. So I don't know. There's other people in here that probably are more studied than that. Red Dawn, maybe Billy Wayne. But if China don't implode like immediately, we're going to war with China over Taiwan and other things. China has already been at war with us. I've really mentioned this, guys, to you some time back. What you got to know about China is that they are all into our infrastructure here. They're into our institutions here. They've got, and what I'm hearing now, what I've heard from a general that briefed a crowd at Edwards Air Force Base, he was saying that, I've told you that the transformers had devices in them that are like black boxes that could shut down the big long distance transformers or cause them to fail, perhaps catastrophically. If they burn up, we're not replacing them. Our grid's not coming back. But we also know that they have massively hacked our uh, infrastructure, all elements of our infrastructure, our cell phones, our water systems, and our power. But what I didn't know until I heard at General's briefing is that they actually hacked all the SCADAs. The SCADAs are they're ubiquitous devices throughout our industry. They're the supervisory control and data acquisition devices. That's what a SCADA is. And they control pipelines. They control for water, for petroleum, oil flowing across this country. They control the utilities. They even run air conditioning in the big buildings. They are in all our power systems. Well, apparently, this is software we can't remove. And how would that be? That would suggest they actually somehow hacked the software that was burnt into the EPROMs that control the devices that they boot up on. If that's the case, it's in everything, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. So, first case of a war with China is maybe our lights just go out if they attack. If they attack Taiwan, the Philippines, maybe our lights go out, our water goes out, our bank accounts are gone. Poof, just like that. And you may not know anything about it because you won't be able to get no news reports. What happened? What happened? What happened? Wouldn't even take an EMP. They wouldn't take a direct attack on us. Well, this general was making the case this why it's good where we're building the B-21. We've got some little edge here maybe that would discourage China from doing these kind of things. I don't think it would discourage them at all. Well, what gets a B-21 if you don't have power? You know, our military gets the bulk of their power so far from the civilian grid. So we are in a perilous time, extremely perilous time right now. And, just this, like I said, the whole trade of fentanyl coming up from the southern border and elsewhere, apparently now, that stuff comes out of China. The drug cartels are being bankrolled by official Chinese banks. You tell me that Xi Jinping don't know about this? China's been stealing our intellectual property. They've been choking out our small companies. But even the big companies, they're stealing intellectual property from everybody. Nothing is sacred to them. And yet they're crying for international order right now. Anytime somebody picks on them a little bit, they cry a lot. And a lot of Americans are all worried about, potential inflation from these tariffs. Guys, you're losing sight of the big picture if that's what you're worried about, because what we got to worry about is war with China. It's the fact that we have bought cheap junk through Walmart and other outlets that has built their military at a staggering scale. Just one port in China in the last year produced more tonnage in ships than America's produced since World War II. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. You see where China's going? China's on a huge, massive scale to obliterate us, basically. And we are just twiddling our thumbs. The media don't tell you this stuff. Who does? And who else is telling you about the bigger picture of this war between Pakistan and India and Iran, how all this can tie in together? I don't think anybody's talked about this, as far as I know. Maybe somebody is. If they have, I congratulate them. Now, I've got friends that are Pakistani. I got friends that are Indian. Like I said, India probably shouldn't be running Kashmir in the first place. And that's been a thorn. It's brought out a lot of this stuff, but no country, once they got something, wants to turn it loose. It's mine. It's mine. My precious. I did a video on that too, which is wrong. It's like Ukraine don't want to let go of the eastern Ukraine, the Donbass area, which wants to be part of Russia. They don't want to let go of Crimea. And so, when we've got all this going on worldwide, we got all these people trying to hold people that don't want to be part of them. I believe in self-determination. It shouldn't be like that. But, I think it's just part of the greed in our human nature that a lot of people are like that. So it is what it is. But whatever the case is, it's leading to war. And the war is looking really ugly right now. We've got two nuclear powers duking it out with it escalating daily. We got a third nuclear power that may get pulled into it. And, the number of nukes that could be exchanged could be horrendous, and the whole world would suffer. The whole world, even with a Pakistani-Indian war, the whole world could suffer as a result. I mean, we're looking for India to be able to pick up where China's leaving off and supplying a lot of our critical supply chain. This is one reason I disagree with that CIA unless it's on redacted. I don't think we're after India. I think China is the prize. And this could be 5D chess. Now, maybe our CIA and MI6 didn't have anything to do with it. That's quite plausible. I'm saying, and I haven't made no judgment on whether or not that guy was correct on that. I will not pass judgment. I don't know how the facts. That was his conjecture. It's a possibility, something to consider. But given the tensions that have existed between India and Pakistan over the Kashmir region, going way back, you could see something like this happening eventually anyway. This is what I was predicting long ago when I talked about the potential of war between Pakistan and India. This is just natural given the kind of tensions they have between them. I mean, it would sooner or later occur anyway. Maybe the timing might have had something to do with it. But like I said, if you look at all the things together, China about to pounce on Taiwan, and suddenly we put out these big trade tariffs. We are going after apparently Iran, which is the source of a good bit of their petroleum, I think 14%. And maybe now we're going after the way to shut down their alternative to sending everything through the Strait of Malacca. I don't know, guys. You tell me, what do you think? You tell me. Uh, you can just tell me what you think. You can leave the comments in chat. You can leave the comments after the video is posted. But whatever the case is, we're at war basically. I mean, this may be war by proxy, but China's already been at war with us for some time. We've just been too dang dumb to know it. And we got a lot of people here in the United States thinking that China is somehow a better alternative. Well, if China takes over the world, you better look at the Uyghurs. I mean, if they shut out our power, most of our people over here are going to starve to death. And we'll lose the bulk of our population within a year. I mean, just people will be expiring left and right. We'll lose, even if the spent fuel rod pulls don't cook off of the nuke plants, which I think they would, we'd lose 9/10 of our people. We'll probably lose more than that. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be stark. It's going to be ugly. Yeah, I live off grid here. Yeah, okay, I live off grid. I don't care. Yeah, but I have to go to town to buy stuff. There'll be no town, nothing to go to. I've been warning you guys, when it ends, it's like a game of musical chairs. When music stops and you sit down, what you got is all you got. There's going to be no cavalry coming to rescue you. You're it. You and whatever buddies you made alliances with, whatever survival communities you've worked out and most of you have not done that, because we set the survival community network here with Wise Owl, and most of you guys have not been joining it. So, well, China's got a big coast guard too, Larry. You got to factor that in. And also, China's commercial fleet has got military applications, and everything can be, everything belongs to the CCP. And the CCP is essentially a big military outfit. Chicago man elected Pope. Yeah, well, apparently he's been posting stuff that's been against the administration's efforts to stop immigration. So I don't think this Pope is going to do us any good, to be honest. And hey, Rodney, the Chinese, they went down between New Zealand and Australia and suddenly decided to do live fire exercise. And I guess minutes before they decided to do them, they notified Australia. And Australia had a lot of flights in the air. They had to redirect those flights like immediately. They didn't have no previous warning. And then just as a show of force, after China did that, they sailed those ships all the way around Australia, just to try to make a point to Australia. That was pure intimidation. There's no other reason for them done that there in the way they did it, except to intimidate New Zealand and Australia. So yes, they did, says Rodney. Amen to that. And I know why you're making knives. Yeah. All right, let me go through the chat room here real quick, guys, and see what we can see here. Who's in here? Well, we got 89 watching. Family, you're right, Zen. Family here. Arthur, Dawn, New Days, Tiffany, S. Lee, Marina, We got Vancouver, Washington in the house, PDNW Greens. So I guess are you a gardener, PNW Greens? That sounds like a name for somebody that's growing gardens. Everybody needs to be growing a garden. Maria Eckham from Sweden. Good to see Sweden in the house. She says Pakistan. Oh shoot, I'm trying to scroll. It's wanting to do stuff to me. Says Pakistan would be the number six nation of lithium, 5.8 million tons compared to China's 6.3 million. Wow, Pakistan's got a lot. Well, it turns out we've actually got a lot in that volcano that's on the border of Oregon and I guess Idaho or I don't know how that border works out. There's a huge dormant volcano that's just loaded with lithium. Um, we have resources here. We've just not been permitted by the various administrations to tap them. They've been in BLM lands or national park lands. Nanny Anderson, how you doing? Billy Wayne. Let's see. How can a few thousand people determine the plight of the world? Well, with nukes, they can do all kind of stuff. That's the problem. They shouldn't. Well, the same thing. Look who's remember the House of Klaus we talk about in here sometimes. Look what they've been trying to do to us. As long as BlackRock holds a significant amount of the alphabet, Google and YouTube, yeah, there you go. Well, you got that right. Already in our power meters. Yeah, all the smart meters. Smart meters aren't so smart, to be honest about it. The new Axis alliance is Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Pakistan, and Venezuela, says Rodney. Pretty close. I was hoping the Trump administration could break Russia out of that. We could have done it before the war in Ukraine if we had been smart, but we lost that opportunity. China's always at odds with India and Russia plays. Oh, yeah, the S-400s are doing well. And here's another dimension of the whole thing. The war between Ukraine and Russia really has showed up the poor quality of Russian military equipment. And they lost a lot of the global market share because of that. Well, guess what? The Chinese equipment is not doing so now. The S-400s actually are doing well, and that's a Russian military missile. It's doing well in India. It's intercepted a lot of drones and other things like that. But the Chinese equivalents in Pakistan has not stopped anything apparently. So the China and their JF, I believe it is 17 fighter jet was shot down. So far in just a matter of a few hours, Chinese equipment's not doing so well. So this could hurt China in more ways. In more ways, China mostly builds coastal ships. Well, they don't need the blue water ships because if they're going to take Taiwan for right now, that's sufficient. Now they could start building blue water ships. They're beginning to. They're beginning to build subs, and they got their first aircraft carrier one, and they got others in pipeline. They can build aircraft carriers faster than we can. So China, it's the production capacity in China that we have to worry about. America, Canada ships, and the Coast Guard, we mentioned that. But yeah, but the Chinese have got probably the biggest Coast Guard of all. Brigadier General Douglas White. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Timmer, you said it right. Brigadier General Douglas Weikart gave a great conference concerning the potential Chinese having a Pearl Harbor redux. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the video I was referring to. Are you my buddy, Tim? I think you may be. You sent me that? So let's see here. So Tricia Hammock reporting for duty. Good to see you here. Rodney Greg, I can put my Gmail in here if somebody wants, but yeah. Hey, I've shown Rodney's knives previously on him. He makes some excellent knives. He shows them on his YouTube site a lot. He's a great knife smith, guys. Master knife smith. So I'll definitely vouch for his handiwork there. Deep function 100,000 minus one. That's easier for me to say than 99999. Sorry for the typo. That's the only way to get by Google. Yeah, okay, smart. There you go. Sometimes typos are the way to avoid the censorship. Larry Smith, America, what says over 200 more ships than China. Yeah, we do have more tonnage. We've got a blue water navy. Japan actually has a blue water navy. But if we're at war with Taiwan, that close in coastal theater is going to be where it's all fought. And China there in that theater has overwhelming missile advantage. The air denial system they've got, anti-access air denial, or whatever you call it. They have huge rocket forces there. So China may have a large army and navy, but they are all greenhorns. That's true. That's true, Rodney. They're not tested. They're not battle tested. That's why they're sending troops to Ukraine, is to try to get some battle experience into their military. Maybe also why North Korea sends troops to Ukraine. So, yeah, New Day says she loves her knife from Rodney. Amen. Yeah, go ahead and you can put your email in here, Rodney. Rodney is a good guy. He sent me some knives. I've shown them in the past. They're packed up somewhere right now. I won't charge 25% tariff either. Oh, thank you, Rodney. We appreciate you. Rodney's a good mod on our channel here. All right, it says, true, Greg, when the U.S. Navy claims that China has more ships, they're basically talking about the region, not the total. Well, and our ships, though, have to do duty worldwide. So if we get into it over Taiwan, that's a whole nother matter. I've done the videos on this channel talking about how you could take out uh, the entire Chinese Navy in one fell swoop. And that's using basically, there's this new approach America's taken called Rapid Dragon. Basically, they have got the cruise missiles ganged up in a package that they can drop out of the back of a C-130 and then deploy several cruise missiles out of this one package. This is the new long standoff cruise missile. It has a very long range, like 1,500 miles, I think. It's a very long range. You could put these things around China and Russia where you could reach anywhere in either country with them. That's how, and B-52s can launch them. It's the new long-range standoff weapon. What is it, AGM? I'm just trying to pull this memory, guys. AGM is at 127. Help me out, guys. But anyway, this cruise missile is extremely powerful. But now, if you took what's going out of business is the large solid rocket boosters that have boosted the space shuttle and the space launch system, since that's getting phased out. Those solid rocket boosters could pack in thousands of these. You could make them come down like rain, or other submunitions. You could rain down warheads. And I've actually done the math on it. The numbers are mind-boggling. I've done it for the AGM cruise missile. I've done it for other size projectiles, what could be done. And it is mind-boggling. You could stop hypersonic weapons. You could stop anything coming at you with these things. If we would take and develop these things as a weapon. I've done, I think, about 3 videos on this topic. And I've posted both on my Galactic Greg's channel and here on Green Greg's, because I think this is game-changing, what could be done with those. So bear that in mind. There are ways to deal with this, but we're not doing it yet. But that's something that ought to be marshaled real fast, and we need to take advantage of the big solid rocket production facilities there in Ogden, no, in Promontory, Utah, that are now owned by Northrop Grumman. The biggest, most dangerous problem in China is nobody talks about this is ability to detect American submarines. Oh yeah, they've got that. And they've also come up with a new frigate that is a stealth frigate, which is specialized toward that. They found ways to get through our stealth. They're finding ways to track our aircraft carriers with satellites. They could use the balloons for that too. And they have the rocket forces, guys, that are just stupendous. So, and the waters around the Strait of Taiwan are actually fairly shallow, so it'd be kind of hard to hide the subs in there, especially the capabilities the Chinese have. So, there's nothing pretty about a war with China, direct war with China, especially in the areas of Taiwan. Now, China would love to take Taiwan because that would break the first island chain barrier we have against them and give them access to the blue waters. And so they'd definitely be building their blue water fleet more rapidly. Then that's what their next focus would be after they've taken Taiwan, theoretically. But their economy is at risk. They're teetering and tottering. And if this war between India and Pakistan breaks their Belt and Roads Initiative, then China can implode. And maybe they would implode without us having a direct war. But then again, this could pull us into the direct war. So there's a lot of variables at play here. There's that old adage, no plan survives the first contact with the enemy. So thank you for sharing the link there, New Days. Satellite photo revealed massive array on Cuba. That's a whole other thing too. Yes, there is a massive, this has just come out, and I think Gary Frenchy mentioned on Next News Network, there is a massive radio interception signet facility, several of them in Cuba. And it's claimed the way they built these things, they can actually monitor just practically all U.S. military communications, everything. Plus, they've also got all these farms they bought near our military bases. So, like I said, China, I did a video I said China had their knife to our jugular vein. Well, it's worse than that. It's like they've got explosives built into our knees, our jugulars, our heart, our brains. They got a way to really hurt us. So let's hope if we have something happens before they reach that point to take the wind out of their sails where that don't happen. Basically, people need to be praying right now earnestly for the world we're in today. I've also done a video called "A Nuke in Every Pot," explaining how if we don't get out of these hatreds and things we're dealing with today, we're not going to survive the technology we're developing, because we'll wind up like the scenario like the krill in the movie The Forbidden Planet. We'll cease to exist. The kind of technologies we're on the cusp of developing, things I'm playing with even that I didn't barely mention in the video, which is real scary, guys. So there's some things to be concerned with. China has hypers too. Oh yeah, they got hypersonic missiles. Amen. Lockheed SR-72, son of Blackbird. Yeah. China's developing their own too. So, in fact, China is developing some new engine technology, plasma engines, all kind of stuff. China's finally leapfrogged ahead and started doing breakthrough technology. Oh no, well, I don't know about that, but very advanced propulsion technologies, fusion technologies. They've apparently built a hydrogen bomb that doesn't require an atom bomb to set it off, which nobody else has. They're advancing their fusion research. They're coming up with a lot of stuff, guys. China could really be our undoing if we're not careful. I've been telling everybody that the biggest threat in the world today is China. For all the people wanting to go after Russia and all these other things, these are all distractions, and China would love for us to be distracted and tied up in these other areas. But the real game the whole world's got to face, including Russia, is China. Europe, your biggest long-term threat is China. Same for everybody. And China is not going to treat us any better than they treat the Uyghurs today. And if you don't know what that means, you need to go in and find out what's happening to the Uyghur people. And don't listen to the Chinese propaganda about it. So, guess what? A missile can never get faster than already being there. There you go. Well, Lisa in the comment, what was that? Tim, has anyone read the book about New Science of Heaven or the Demon of Ecker? I don't know what that is, Tim. So let's see here. Let me go back here. I missed a comment from Lisa. Anyway, guys. So just bear in mind, guys, we're in a very dire strait today. As Timmer mentioned, the brigadier general that briefed at Eglin Air Force Base Guys, his message was very sobering, very sobering, very sobering. Even talked about how one advocate of American air power predicted within 18 minutes time the Japanese would strike Pearl Harbor, and the Pearl Harbor would be one of their targets. And he said it'd be a Sunday morning at 7:30. It was Sunday morning at 7:48. Uh, you know, Xi Jinping has been telling his military to get ready for war with America. He first told them 2035. Then he told them 2032. Then he said 2027. Then he quit talking this stuff out loud. A lot of us think 2025 is the year. Could be. Yes, Timmer, we got to do some talking here soon. Anyway, is that what's in the book of the Science, Heaven, and Demon? The Demon of Ecker? Hmm. Yes. All right. Well, might pay some attention to Ashton Forbes. Catherine Humphreys, you are my night owl. I'm having trouble being a night owl now. I'm having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning some mornings for work. I'm meeting with people in Europe, and their clock is a little different than ours. I'm here on the West Coast in America, so it makes it kind of tough. There aren't many missiles armed with the nuclear warheads for a reason. If they came down to nuclear war, the missiles would need to be equipped with warheads first. Well, it might be they'll start arming them up. Margie Bell, okay, deep function. I say deep function because DP makes me think deep. FX is a mathematical symbol for function. And you got 5 nines there. Looking at this right, that's 100,000 minus 1. That's why I refer to DPFX 99999 is deep function 100,000 minus 1. That's easy for me to say that. All righty, guys. We've been going for a while here. What time is it? 61 minutes. We passed an hour. So I think we should call it a night. I just wanted to point this stuff out. Let me show a couple. Let me do a share screen. I'll show a couple things first. I got to bring it up here. Ding, 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 ding. Whoops. And knocked it out. Let's see if I do a share screen here real quick. Where is it? There it is. I changed my bells and whistles on here. Yeah. Well, first it's going to come up here where we're at. And that's going to look kind of weird. All right. There we go. It just shows you that the war is really escalating. That's just one source. J.D. Vance, hey, it's none of our business. I agree, it's none of our business. But then again, maybe this is just a good way to stay out of something that we may have prodded to give us the appearance of not having anything. But guys, look, one of the best things you can do is grow your own garden. Right now, gardening is fundamental. It's a good time to buy seeds. And I put links in most of my videos for True Leaf Market and Eden Brothers. Check them out, guys. They got a wide selection of stuff. I highly encourage you to have a look at it. So this is a map of Pakistan. This is the contested regions of Kashmir, both in India and Pakistan. And this is Baloistan I was telling you guys about. It's 40% of the area of Pakistan. And that part is not happy to be in Pakistan. It shows how Pakistan was divided out of India primarily for the Muslim people to go to. First, you had East and West Pakistan, and East Pakistan later became Bangladesh. That's why I often refer to the United States liberal left coast and liberal northeast coast as East and West Wokistan. Now, this is Balochistan right here. Just kind of blow that up a little bit. So, we have a very complicated history, guys. And this is an article, and you can look this stuff up here on Wikipedia about the CPAC. I was telling you guys about China-Pakistan Economic Zone. And you can see it goes right through Balochistan. which is not at all happy with it. And the southern terminus of this atrocity, as they said in their region. There's a lot of stuff on here. Oh yeah, but they've also built power plants as part of this, gas liquefaction plants. China's invested a lot of infrastructure, and all that would make easy targets of India, easy targets. Guys, also, you better consider with the challenges against our currency, you might want to buy a little gold or silver or platinum. Go to Defy the Grid if you want to do that. They got a guarantee on their site. If you find a better price somewhere else, they'll meet to beat it. Now, how do you beat that? And plus, I love these little gold backs. So check that out. Check all this out. If you use the code GreenGregs, you get 1% off. Those things are works of art. They're actual gold and foldable bills. Available, but oh, there we are again. Let me stop the share. Bing, 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 bing. All right, let me go back and find our chat, which is opening another tab here. All right, thank you for sharing links, New Days. Yeah, Catherine Austin Fitts claimed that $21 trillion had been spent on underground bases for the elite here in the United States. I challenged that figure, but she also claimed there were like 170 bases. But just given some of the videos I've seen, I think there's some reality to that. I think there is something there. It may not be 21 trillion. I don't know if it's 170 bases, but they said they're all connected with underground transportation systems. And guys, we've seen videos of semi trucks rolling through tunnels underground that are alleged to be part of this. I don't know, guys. China's Belt and Road goes to Pakistan. That's what I'm talking about. This is the Chinese-Pakistani Economic Corridor. It is the linchpin of the entire Belt and Roads Initiative. It is their key piece of it. So this is what Donald Rumsfeld told that story on the History Channel. What story was that, Larry? Your last comment. Mechanic dropped a wrench in a Minuteman. Oh yeah, that happened. That did happen. Rummy told that story. That's known. Yeah, he went on telling that story. All right, so, alrighty, guys. Let me bring back up my little main screen here. Where's it at? That I control from. Oh, still didn't come up. Shoot. There we go. Yeah, click things just right. All right, folks. Bottom line is we're in perilous times, very perilous times, and it's accelerating. We've basically, China's had a war against us for some time. We've just been too dumb to know it. And I think this is part of a bigger struggle between good and evil. So it is time to get right with your maker. Be centered, have internal peace, make peace with your friends and family. Tell your loved ones you love them while you got a chance. The lights go out. You ain't gonna be making no phone calls. This thing ain't gonna be worth 2 cents for that. So just bear these things in mind. Get your stuff together. Like I said, when the music ends and you sit down in the chair, what you got's all you got, and no cavalry's coming. And Lord, guys, we're on the verge of civil war, World War III. We're looking at conflicts with Iran, North Korea, China. It's not pretty, guys, and internal. There's so much internal division, it's not funny. One thing I've often asked you guys to do is share some of my videos with some of your friends to see things a little differently or other pieces of information. Some of these people could be convinced and brought around if they're taught to, because all they know is what they've been seeing on the news media. The news media has been hypnotizing them, pulling them in. So give them an alternative. Get them to think for themselves. Anyway, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And with that, I am going to say, have a good night, good day, wherever you are. Ho, 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 ho.